So as Jerry mentioned to you, we're talking about supplements and the fact that people use them. And for those of you who are physicians in the audience, whenever you take a look at the patient's H&P, they list, red yeast rice, and they list this supplement, that supplement. But when you ask them why they're taking them, they don't really know why they're taking any particular supplement. It's usually my neighbor told me, or my cousin told me, or my uncle's sister's brother's nephew's dog told me that this would be good for me to take, and therefore I'm taking it. How do they choose the brand? Probably based on price. They went for the cheapest one. But even beyond that, they have no idea if what they're taking is even working for them. But this is what we're ultimately trying to get to. The reason for taking supplements is because our diets are lacking in all the nutrients that we need. If you look at the data that the USDA puts out on what you should be taking and how much amount, that goes back to foods that were produced back in the 50s. Since then, our soils have been depleted, more pesticides are being used, etc. So the quality of our fruits and vegetables are much poorer than they were 60, 70 years ago. And so a lot of that USDA data no longer applies. And so when you have these gaps in our nutrition, you need to fill them. The other problem with the American diet, of course, is that we just don't eat enough fruits and vegetables. I mean, if the USDA was recommending, 5 to 10 servings of fruits and vegetables per day, and our nutrient sources are half as good as they were 50 years ago, we really should be taking 10 to 20 servings of fruits and vegetables per day. Well, who does that? I mean, I just look at my own diet today. I barely had 3 servings of fruits and vegetables all day long. And here it is, the end of the day. And that's not because I don't like fruits and vegetables. It's just that the way we eat, we don't get enough fruits and vegetables. Why are fruits and vegetables important? Well, the reason that they're important is because they have antioxidants in them. Now, if you think about it, one of the problems in our body is this issue of free radicals. So free radicals are chemical species that have a free electron in them. They're in a high energy state, and they're looking to get into a low energy state. And the only way they can do that is to bind to other molecules that can provide a proton and neutralize their charge. Well, when they do that, they actually damage those proteins. The classic example of this process of oxidation is if you cut an apple and let it sit out in air for a while, it turns brown. And it's turning brown because the surface molecules, the surface sugars, are oxidizing and causing that brown degradation. Same way inside our body. When a free radical attacks a protein, it denatures the protein. When it attacks a DNA or RNA molecule, it causes that molecule to unzip or unravel. Sometimes the repair mechanisms repair it, and it's not a problem. Sometimes they don't repair it, and it's a problem. And the problem typically is cancerous. So if the free radical happens to hit a DNA sequence that's an oncogene, a gene that's known to cause cancer, and that gene gets activated, now all of a sudden you've got a cancerous cell that's going to proliferate and cause a tumor. So if you have more antioxidants in your system, what they do is they scavenge these free radicals. They prevent the free radicals from actually getting to the point where they can do damage. And so the idea is to use supplements or a higher fruit and vegetable content in your diet to have higher levels of antioxidants in your system so that you're providing a protective effect, not only against cancer, but other diseases like diabetes and heart disease, et cetera, because those also have oxidative components. So one of the antioxidants that we're going to talk about is beta carotenoids. So carotenoids are these plant pigments that give plants their colors, typically reds and yellows, but some greens in some situations. The classic example of the beta carotenoid being valuable is in carrots, right? We've all heard our mothers tell us, eat your carrots, it's good for your eyesight. And the reason is because the beta carotenoids upregulate vitamin A in our body, and vitamin A is good for our eyesight. Well, other things that they do is they provide anti-inflammatory effects. They provide cancer protection by decreasing carcinogenesis, and they can boost the immune response, which is something that Jerry was talking about vis-a-vis COVID-19. There's over 100,000 publications looking at the value of beta carotenoids in those 3 particular things that I was talking about. So in terms of cancer prevention, what they do, as I was mentioning, by decreasing the free radical ability to attack proteins and DNA, these antioxidants then will decrease the carcinogenesis, meaning they'll decrease the number of cells that actually become cancerous, and therefore there's less need for the body to fight off those cells with natural immune systems. Similarly, there's a couple of studies out there that show that high levels of beta carotenoids will actually decrease levels of cancer in patient populations. There's been a meta-analysis looking at some 50 studies show that there was an inverse relationship between mortality for all causes, as well as a protective effect on communicable disease spread. So just having high levels of antioxidants will give you those benefits. Now, how can consumers feel confident the supplements are working? Well, if you're going to take a supplement, you want to know that it's doing something. But how do you measure that? Historically, the only way to measure that was very expensive blood tests, to go and look at levels of vitamins and then try to correlate that to whether it's working. An alternative methodology that was created by this company that we're talking about today, Pharmanex and Nu Skin, was to use something that they developed called a biophotonic scanner. And we'll get into how that works a little bit more. But the idea is to use this biophotonic scanner to measure carotenoids in your skin. And the biophotonic scanner is predicated on the principle of Raman spectroscopy. So Raman spectroscopy has been around since the 1930s. The idea behind it is if you have a particular molecule and you hit it with a particular wavelength of light, the molecule will then cause a different wavelength of light to come back. And if it's a single wavelength of light, or if it's a very narrow spectrum, you can actually collect those photons, measure them, and get an idea of how much of that particular molecule is there that's being present. This technology was developed with a grant from the NIH at the University of Utah into this biophotonic scanner. And then the biophotonic scanner was then utilized to measure antioxidant levels in patients' skin. And a Yale study actually correlated the actual number of photons that were collected by the biophotonic scanner, and it correlated with increased levels of beta carotenoid, and also correlated with decreased levels of adiposity or fatness and decreased levels of smoking. So the less you smoke, the higher the level of your carotenoid in your skin is going to be, and therefore the higher scan score you're going to be. So Jerry's going to come back here and play a video for you right now that is going to show you a little bit of the science behind the development, show you the wavelength and the concept behind it. I'm going to jump off stage here, but I'm going to stick around to answer questions a little bit later. Thanks.
So Dr. Sinha, welcome back.
Thank you. I see there's a question here from Chris asking, besides Pharmanex being a great whole body vitamin, what does the scanner Pharmanex bring to you as an orthopedic surgeon? Wound healing improvement, before and after surgery benefit, etc. Thanks. So the obvious answer is we believe that there's wound healing benefit. We don't have data on that yet. That's something that we're working on. There is lots of data on vitamin D, for example, on nutritional status. So when people have higher nutritional status, higher vitamin D content going into surgery, they heal better. They have lower complication rates, specifically with infection. So that's something that's beneficial, I think, for patients. I think also just in general for our surgical patients, when we tell them, look, the healthier you are going into surgery, the stronger you are, the better you're going to be coming out. That there's truth to that, and it resonates with them. Yeah. So the biggest thing that we've noticed in general is people have this greater sense of well-being. That's something that's difficult to quantify, but it's definitely something that's being felt. In my own situation, I've got some chronic low back pain, and after 25 years of surgery, I've got some arthritic fingers. So the biggest thing that I noticed from going on the supplements was that my low back pain was diminished, and my arthritis pain was diminished, which makes sense because if you're getting a big anti-inflammatory boost, then you're going to see this benefit by, arthritis has an inflammatory component, obviously. So that generalized stiffness that I used to have has diminished. Well, my wife has noticed, and she's had a huge benefit from the medications. Her scan score started off at, I believe, 31,000, and now she's up to 68,000. 50,000 is the cutoff that shows benefit in terms of chronic disease prevention. 70,000 is the benefit for anti-cancer effects. So she's up to 68,000 already. And for her, the two biggest benefits that she's noticed, number one, she's heading towards a knee replacement, but her knee pain is diminished. And number two, that afternoon fatigue that she used to get from being on conference calls all day long, and the need for 5-hour energy or a cup of coffee in the afternoon, that's pretty much gone away. So she's noticed that as a benefit. Well, I think just having a higher level of vitamins in your system is going to give you better overall I'm trying not to be too molecular biology based here, but vitamins have a role, obviously, right? What they do is that they help stimulate the processes for protein development. And so by having higher levels of vitamins in your system, you're going to have more efficient protein development. So if you think about like a 5-hour energy, that's high amino acid that you're taking because there's some benefit in terms of building protein. You know, we've learned now with exercise that you want to take protein at the end of your exercise because it helps to cause repair mechanisms. So a lot of that energy depletion that we saw before was from loss of protein. So I think by having upregulation of protein synthesis, you're seeing the decrease in the afternoon sleepies, as you call them. No, I think, you know, from a patient standpoint, it's a really easy sell because when the way I approached it is anybody who was taking supplements already, I just asked them the simple question: hey, I see you're taking supplements. Are they working? How do you know they're working? Here's a product that I believe in. My family's all using it. You've got literally nothing to use. There's a money back guarantee. And if you take the Life Pack Nano, you get everything you need from a supplement source except for calcium. The only thing you have to add to that is calcium. So for $152 a month, money back guarantee, you get everything you need. You can get rid of every other supplement you're buying. That's a pretty easy sell. My pleasure. Good night, everybody.